Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you, especially after another break of the last day. Happy to see all of you made it. And yeah, let's start this journey about estimation is a waste of time. So actually, you don't know this, but when I sent the call for papers, I thought this is great because LeadDev is just after my 40th birthday. So that would be the best present I can ever get, to be here talking to you all, celebrating my birthday with the community. So thank you for making it. This is amazing. And let me tell you a quick summer story back when I was still 39. This actually happened. So my boyfriend and I, we thought that we will go to this, we will have a great trip. We were going on vacation, and we were going from Barcelona to Andalusia. So we had it all planned out, you know, the plans. And we'd wake up at the crack of dawn, we will beat the heat, and by lunchtime, we will be enjoying sangria and tapas in Andalusia. So we had everything under control. And the reality check happened. So, you know, in that groggy state, because we rushed out, we were like, OK, we have to just wake up. We don't like waking up in the morning, but we will just wake up. We didn't have coffee. We didn't have breakfast. And my boyfriend put gasoline in a diesel car. This is something you probably don't know how it even works, because you don't have diesel cars, but we do. And it was just 200 kilometers out of home. So basically, we ended up, so suddenly, our whole well-estimated, well-planned timeline went out of the window, and we waited 3 hours to get that thing out of the gas tank, and it was scorching heat. So doesn't it remind you about something? What happens is that we typically think about this ideal ETA. That's exactly how traditional estimations work, right? We have the happy path. It will take precisely, well, let's say it will take 8 hours from Barcelona to Andalusia. That's all we have. And what happens? We are in a rush, there's no coffee, plans change, randomness of the system occurs, and the real ETA is really different. I want to show it with, this is from one of our teams in our systems. So they use some metrics. This is the dashboard, and as you see, this shows how randomness of the system actually works. So with different sprints, what do we typically estimate? When you estimate, do you estimate ready for release? How much time you will spend in review or on hold waiting for another team on dependency? We typically don't do that, right? We estimate the hands-on code. And that's the light blue. So and when I ask this to my teams, they don't even look at the dark blue, because obviously there are a lot of random blockers, but they are typically very surprised by just the fact that in review takes almost double of what it takes to hands-on code. Nobody thinks about that when we do the estimates, right? So we don't typically estimate for the pit stops, the lunches, what it takes to get outside of just driving or just coding. And today we will talk about all of this. So let's talk about a better way to deal with this reality based on our learnings from our systems. And I will give you 4 alternatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 alternatives how you can do it better. So, but first, let me present myself. So I'm Maria Chec. I'm Polish, living in Barcelona, Spain, hence the accent. And I'm a principal technical program manager in OutSystems, and we have a booth. You should go swing by, and I can be there after my talk, because you know the office hours were ahead, but in case you want to ask some questions, you can find me there. I'm also a professional Kanban trainer and a content creator and agile state of mind. My logo is super cool, you can see it there. You can check more about me in this QR code. And now, let's focus on the most important question at hand. When will it be done? And that's here as well, if you can see. So who has been asked this question in last month or two, right? Everybody wants to know, when will it be done? And if your stomach drops every time your stakeholder asks this, you're not alone. We've all been there. And the problem, nobody wants to give bad estimates, but we all do. And we don't do it out of spite. We don't do it because we just bad people. Traditional estimation just doesn't set up us for success. So I will explain today the journey in our company, in our systems, to improve the estimates and the relation because it's not only when you improve estimates, you not only improve the timings, you can better answer the question, when will it be done, but you also improve the relationship with your stakeholders, and that's priceless. So, but just a little warning, it's a bumpy road. It doesn't happen overnight. So what is the problem? The problem is, estimates are wrong. Deadlines are missed, trust is undermined, and as I said, you have this choice. You miss the deadline and the road trust, or you deliver garbage and the road trust. Which one do you take? So no productive outcome can be achieved. And the funny thing here is that a lot of energy is wasted on those estimations, and we keep hoping next time it will be better. We will think harder. Right? It's not that we will change anything. We will just do the same thing, but we will think harder, we will spend more time on estimations, and we will put the precise numbers. And this is funny because I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, when you have a SEV1 incident, you never think, next time it will be better. We will not do anything, but we will hope for the best. And this is somehow something that we do when it comes to the estimations. So, this is a question for you. How your estimates relate to time? Who has checked estimates that relate to actual time of delivery? Ooh, I see just a couple of hands. This is great, because, I came here, I'm talking estimation is a waste of time. What do you know? I will show you, so I would like to first show that my assumption is true. So I took, and this is the moment that you can use AI. So because Jira will never give this kind of magic of metrics to you, but you can always use AI and get it. So cycle time versus estimation. On one axis, you have the cycle time in days, how long it takes to get something done, and on the other one, the estimation of that particular team. And I checked it on different teams. What's funny here is this. It doesn't matter if you put 1, 2, 3, well, hell, you can put an 8, and it will be faster than a 1. What do you say? I will remember I went to this team once, and I asked, why does a 3 take 30 days to get done? And they were like, we don't estimate in time, we estimate in complexity. Fair point, I was one of those agile coaches that preached that. No, you don't estimate in hours, you should estimate in complexity. What does it mean? Nobody knows, but do this. And then they also, I was like, okay, but why do you have 0.5? They actually had that 0.1. It's we were asked to give smaller estimates. Wouldn't you be proud? You asked, they delivered. Small estimates, 3 will take 30 days. Doesn't matter, it's a small estimate. And that's really true story. So I hope that by now we established that estimation is a waste of time, and now is the moment to see how to fix it. So there is a light in the tunnel, just like the light that's in my face right now. So first, we need to change our thinking. And you probably heard about it. Who has heard about deterministic thinking versus probabilistic thinking? OK, some hands are up, not all hands, so let's get into it. So you know, in Pro Kanban, we really like this probabilistic thinking. So deterministic thinking assumes fixed, precise outcomes. We know what will happen. A future is 1, and we know it. It's like math. In math, 2 + 2 always equals 4. There's no other way. And that believes that we can have something perfectly scheduled and predicted, no friction forces accounted for. And this is as opposed to probabilistic thinking, when you account for a range of possible outcomes. And for example, take your daily commute. Let's assume it's 20 kilometers or miles, always the same distance, yet every day it's a different time, right? It depends on, is it raining, is there traffic, whatever happens, it's fairly the same amount of time every day. It also depends on the day, on the hour you commute. And you know, people from the weather forecast, they figured this out very well. When you see there will be 85% chance of rain, what do? You take an umbrella. You don't do that probably if you see only 45% of chance of rain. You're like, I'm eager to take that risk, right? And this is how we change the thinking. We account for many possible futures.
I hope you're enjoying this video, but did you know LeadDev has a lot more to offer?
When I think about LeadDev, I think about bricks and hearts. Bricks are those foundational things that you need to know, and LeadDev provides that through webinars, through videos, through cutting-edge research. But hearts are the things that you need to glue yourself to the people at work, and LeadDev does that through conferences and meetups.
Make sure you check out leaddev.com.
And this is how we did it in OutSystems. So we started changing the mindset. And you know how it looks like. And this is also very interesting because in Jira, if you go there, you will see a lot of averages. And as you know, plans based on average assumptions fail on average. And that's the flow of averages. I really recommend you give it a read by Sam Savage. What happens here is that we have this delivery achievement for Q2 2025 of all our teams in OutSystems. What do we see here? We are using an average forecast that masks uncertainty. It's perfect line. We can never be perfect, we know that, but somehow when we plan, we think, well, this is the perfect outcome. We can never meet that outcome, and as you see, we keep on under-delivering. So the good news is we can change this. We can change this and have a different forecast. So I'm showing this to you to see, like, there is a light in the tunnel. We can do it. I will explain how just in a minute. And as you see here, this line is already different because we took into account there are possible futures, and we took this probabilistic thinking, and our forecast changed. And we are quite so much more happy with our outcome. We are not under-delivering always anymore because we take into account the probability of what can be the outcome. And now we will talk how to get to this mindset. So there are those 4 alternatives that I said that maybe they don't work independently. I would actually use them all because they really work well to change this mindset and have a different way of estimating. So we have flow metrics, right sizing, clear planning moments, and Monte Carlo simulation. Anybody here heard about Monte Carlo simulation? Okay, quite a lot of people. Great. I will explain it anyway. So, starting from the flow metrics, and as you know, flow metrics, very common thing. Cycle time, we already saw, cycle time is the time elapsed from when we start something until we finish it. Important, we need to know when is the start line and when is the finish line, and we need to agree on those. This is very important, to be able to measure it. Then we have throughput. Throughput in this traditional estimation means basically the velocity, right? You have velocity in story points. Here, throughput, because we saw that it doesn't matter what points you put to your stories. Imagine you put 1 to every item, every story you have on your sprint, bugs included, everything. Everything is a 1. So when you finish it, let's say today we finished 2 items. That's our throughput for today. And then we have those undervalued flow metrics. Work in progress and work item age. Who uses work item age on their daily? Very few people. You need to watch my video that says, walk the board, agile state of mind. It will really help you. Oh my God, it helps so much if you change this mindset of what you're doing on your daily. And work item age is cycle time, but without the finish, because something is still on. So it is how many days it is in progress without being finished yet. And work in progress means how many items we have in our system that are in progress. And those are 2 leading metrics that we can really use and leverage every day to establish a more predictable system. And you know, we already talked about predictability. Chris shared his ketchup story. That's where he explained how important it is to be predictable, even if you are slower. It's better to be predictable than to be fast and unpredictable. So this is I'm talking about flow metrics because this sets you up for success. This is the backbone of your probabilistic thinking, and it's the backbone of creating a system that's more predictable. You can act directly on those metrics, and thanks to that, you can make sure your system will be more predictable. I'll not stop for a long time because we don't have a lot of time, but just remember it's important. And then we have right sizing. And you know, it's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. We think that too. So we create more stable system. And I will surprise you here, because when people talk about right sizing, they typically think, oh, it means every item has to be the same, because if I put 1 to every item, they has to be almost the same size. This is a very common misconception. It doesn't have to be the same size. They just have to be less than something that we agree. So we slice items for the smallest unit of potential value, and we define the time that we want to slice them. This is the service level expectation, SLE, or your sprint duration. If your sprint lasts 2 weeks, it's basically 10 days. So you want your items to be 10 days or less. Then you become better at it, and maybe you will be courageous enough to have 8 days or less, and so on, right? So it doesn't mean they have to all be done in 1 day. It's just we define or less, okay? So that's the right sizing. It really helps with the predictability of the system as well. And then we have 3-level planning. So in OutSystems, we noticed that we were spending so much time on estimating. And you know how it goes. You're working on the current projects, and somebody comes and says, oh, you know, I have this great idea, can you estimate it? So you're constantly stopping to estimate something for the future, and it takes a long time. And then what happens? Sometimes half of those projects never come into life. We never even start working on them. So all that time was wasted. So that's why it's very important to set up what it means to estimate for the different horizons. So you know the typical roadmap that says now, next, later. So you just define it. now is a sprint, it's a commitment, it's a team-level refinement. Then we have a quarter. We want to know, like, have a forecast for a quarter with the ballparks on an epic level, and this helps us visualize what we want to achieve in a quarter. And then you have also the 12-month roadmap, something that will happen in the future, and probably will not. And you also just set in some intentions. You don't spend as much time on estimating and forecasting for this as for the other ones. And as you see below, everything can be done with Monte Carlo simulation. And that's what I'm going to talk about now, because this is a game changer when it comes to forecasting. So when we face uncertainty in tech projects, we really are facing many possible futures. And the randomness of the system, what we can't control, it goes to all those, who has an Excel with all teams' days off and the bank holidays and everything, so we can really have this capacity measurement. We used to have very heavy Excels with all this data. Everybody had to say when they are going on vacation, so we plan a sprint in a correct way. We can just stop doing that. And what we do is we take, I will explain how that works. So we take throughput. So we collect historical throughput from the team. How many items your team actually completed each day. Then we decide on the forecast horizon. So I have 2 months of data from my team, the throughput, and now I want to forecast for a month ahead, okay? And then you make a key assumption that's important, that my team will perform roughly similarly to how they have historically. So, you know, people went on vacation, people had a lot of meetings, we had a bank holiday in the middle. Everything is already in that past data. Our team has a lot of dependencies. Our team is different than the other team because we have many more dependencies and we spend a lot of time waiting for other teams. All this is already in that data. When we estimate, once again, in story points, we don't account for all of this. So here, you have all of this data already there, and now you run one simulation where, as you see on the second chart, you see you just put randomly select throughput values from the real historical data and put it into these days. You randomly put them, and then you sum them up, and that's one possible future. One possible future is not enough, so we run this 10,000s of times. So we randomize completely this data, and then we come up with a bell curve, as you see here. This is our histogram that shows how many, shows us when something can be done. And instead of one date, you get a probability distribution. So for example, there is 50% chance we will finish in 6 weeks, and 85% chance we'll finish in 8 weeks or less. So now, this shifts the conversation. What's the date to what's the risk we are willing to take? And the most likely, and this really helps with, I don't know the future. I cannot predict the future. It's all right. But I know that with 85% chance, we will do this in 8 weeks or less. And this also changes the conversation with the stakeholders, because you include them in that conversation and you say, what's the risk you're willing to take? Is 15% risk okay for you? Or you, in this project that the deadline is so tight, you want to have only 5% of risk? Then we go for the 95th percentile, right? So, and there is this, this level of transparency and accountability apparently is very hard. So what I'm hearing is that sometimes it's really hard to, you know, our predictions will be longer than what we are used to. And I have this Lighthouse tool that you can use. A friend from Pro Kanban actually coded it because he wanted to use something that will work. And as you see here, with one click of the forecast, you can predict, I have 15 items, when they will be done. And it gives you the percentiles. Or I have a target date. How many items will I do by that date? With a magic button, you get the answer. So Monte Carlo simulation is a way to make forecasts without pretending we know the future certainly. And we include this probability. And in those tools, you have a lot of great data. For the data geeks, it's a great thing to dive into. So I really recommend to take a look. And well, there will be this pushback, right? What I said, we estimate effort, not time. We were asked to provide smaller estimates. This cannot take this long. There will be stages of grief when you see the real estimates, the real forecasts. But worry not, it's a process. Nothing happens from one day to another, and I don't encourage you to just throw everything out and start doing this. You can do this in parallel and see what works better for you. So the takeaways. Stop thinking deterministically, start thinking probabilistically. Have the computer to do the heavy lifting for you. Don't try to pretend you know the future. Use your historical data to predict it. And change the conversation with stakeholders. Include them in that conversation. And remember, we have those alternatives to traditional estimation.
You know, they say if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. I'm sorry. Keep going. I don't know where that came from. Go ahead.
And this is the end. So thank you so much. This is a QR code you can scan to give me some feedback, and I will, in return, give you a link with summary of the session and the links to the tools that you can use to start doing this in parallel. So hope this works for you. Would love to hear your feedback, so please reach out, and thanks for listening.